Yeah.
Somebody pushing some pushing.
Yeah.
I can't hear it.
Welcome to Main Stage Music's weekly live stream.
Live!
Yes, live!
Stream?
Right here in historic downtown Dayton, Tennessee. Actually, it's not really Dayton, Tennessee, but it doesn't matter because it's the internet and nobody really knows how the internet works, right?
Even if we did it in Dayton, like the data would probably like go back to some server in like DC or something. So
exactly, and we're here in the beautiful Red Curtain Theater. If you don't know the Red Curtain Theater in Dayton, you must not know Dayton very well. But I'm your host, Brad, with Main Stage Music, and this is, of course, Jamie. And so anyways, we were talking today about, well, what should we talk about? That's my worst, let me see, it was Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Oh, no.
When that guy with the burn on his hand. Anyways,
He's
so what we're...
been fodder for every fake adventure cartoon in the past 20 years.
So what we thought about talking about today is COVID-19.
Also, hearkening back to our first show that we ever did when someone got upset with us for not wearing masks.
This is true.
And I made the comment that what I was drinking was higher proof than the hand sanitizer that was in my truck.
Tell you, people will get mad no matter what. But that being said, COVID is on everyone's mind because for the last year, we've obviously seen the terrible ravages that this pandemic has taken on the entire globe. But you might think, well, what does this have anything to do with main stage music or music in general or things we want to talk about? Well, that's what we were talking about. How has COVID affected the music industry? How has it affected what it is that we do?
Yeah, when you first brought up the topic, I was like, oh man, that's hokey. But like, seriously, think about it for 2 seconds, how you engage and deal with music. If we just thought Metallica was upset about Napster, and the way music all of a sudden became either completely free or $10,000 to go see your favorite band. Now you had none of those things available as revenue. So,
well, I tell you, it's just obviously it's affected everything. Here, hang on one second, everybody.
Comments rolling in.
One thing we want to let everyone know is that comments not only are welcome, but they're encouraged. We want to hear from you guys. That's the whole fun of having an open forum like this.
Not all comments are welcome. Some of you folks are crazy people.
Yeah, that's true. But we like crazy people too. Crazy people make things interesting.
Yeah, I feel.
So that being said, last year when COVID was hitting China and they were spraying like toothpaste foam all over the streets and people were like, what's going on and whatever. I don't think, the United States was taking anything seriously, and they were just like, it's an Asian problem. They're always wearing masks at the airport, and that's not our issue. But then by, February, March, when it started kind of really creeping in and spreading like wildfire, we started seeing some stuff happen, okay? I know that at Main Stage, we had a big music program. It's actually a benefit for one of our employees, Trevor, was canceled because of COVID. And it was the tail end of March, I think it was the 26th of March, that the governor of Tennessee, who is not into closing stuff down,
right,
made the decision to shut down the state because of the amount of COVID cases that there were. Now you have to, for all of y'all who are watching, by the way, a point of pride, I have to say, we accomplished an amazing thing.
What's that?
We, the Main Stage Music live stream, last week was officially banned in Syria, North Korea, Iran, I think Iraq, and some other nasty despot-run country. So we must be doing something right if they really don't like what we're doing.
Well, I wonder what it was we were talking about.
Well, what it was we played some cool jazz music, And people in extremely closed countries don't like the freeing nature of
But we
American-
liberated Iraq.
Did we?
Syria was one of the most progressive Arab nations over there.
Was.
Yeah,
not,
I guess
not
was.
is or
guess-
ISIS or whatever.
Yeah.
But anyways, that being said, so when all these shows and stuff started being shut down, you have to think the state of Tennessee is known most of all for music. You know, Nashville's Music City, and it was being ravaged by COVID, which is terrible. And we're losing very important people. We lost John Prine. We lost Joe Diffie. We lost a lot of extremely important musicians. It is scary stuff, okay? But so you'd think that all is nigh, you know? I mean, we're over with, right? When they shut the state of Tennessee down, music state, what happened to music? Well, today I was reading in one of our trade magazines, which again, a lot of y'all aren't necessarily privy to. Did you know that guitar sales increased by over 60%?
I don't doubt that at all.
60%. So that means that for every, let's say, one guy who played guitar, now there's more than 1.5 guys that play guitar. I mean, that's insane. But when I say insane, I mean in a great way.
Yeah.
Okay? So you have a whole nation of people that are at home.
Attracting other markets though too, right?
Well, I mean, it can expand. I'm just talking about the guitar
Like
market.
campers, boats.
Well, yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, we all have experienced, I don't know if you all have it, but I have experienced, you go and try to find a kayak. My favorite bicycle shop, Owen Cyclery in Hickson, Tennessee, they're cleaned out. They don't have anything.
Is that right?
Oh, man.
Wow.
All the bike shops are just in a bad way. Now, that's kind of like, in one regard, if you want a new bike, it kind of sucks.
Yeah.
For the dealer, it really sucks. But to think that, wow, everybody in America has decided, hey, let's take up cycling or kayaking or guitar.
Or guitar?
That is really good. I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe, and I'm not trying to diminish all the bad that's happened, but kind of like,
Well, it was a significant enough event that it made a marketed difference on the entire supply chain and just anything that was delivered in the area, period, across the board. Once we kind of got a handle on, yeah, this is terrible. We know that there are susceptible populations. Everybody's going to wear a mask, wash their hands, put on a glove at the gas station, you know, stay in your house. But beyond that, it's like Amazon feeding frenzy, right?
well, you know, and I guess that's one thing that we could, you know, talk about is it cool that we also experienced the largest shift of wealth that human beings have ever experienced in their lives? Is it cool that now there were people worth over $100 billion, and not just one, but several?
Yeah.
And
Are you one of them?
I am. If you didn't know.
Did y'all know?
You didn't know
We're
it.
announcing it tonight.
They don't give away these amazingly stained and filthy Stetson.
He went from thousandaire to 100 billionaire.
But I mean, that being said, though, I mean, seriously, it's like we have experienced this huge blossom of people buying guitars, okay, and musical instruments and so on. So, have you guys done that? Has this COVID thing brought you to what's more important? Is something like this a tragedy, okay, in one regard, kind of like open up a creative wellspring in another regard?
Yeah, and more so than just like those of us that were either interested or already participating in music, but did you participate in, you know, sharing your craft in a significantly different way?
That's an interesting point.
Did it put you in the room, closed door more, and really woodshedding, and you made a lot of changes or explored some creative outlets that you haven't before, like putting, you know, electronic accompaniment to your acoustic instruments? Or did you find yourself doing the obvious thing of, you know, participating in the web distribution of YouTube and...
Well, and here's an interesting thing. Would you guys like to know a very simple way that COVID has added to the music industry? This show. See, live streaming is something that we at Mainstage Music had never done before COVID, But obviously, we're always trying to help our customers and grow and connect with you guys, okay, in various ways. And live streaming is just one of them. We would not have invested in this without this tragedy that kind of hit us.
You had the live streaming equipment prior to the shutdown, right?
Mm-mm.
You did not?
Nope.
I remember you buying the Mini Pro.
That was in June.
Was it really?
Of 2020.
Okay. Did you stream anything before Trevor's event?
Nope, not a thing.
So you.
So just so you guys know, I lost a friend last year. His name was Trevor, and he was a longtime friend of mine for over 25 years, but also a longtime employee at Main Stage Music. When he passed away, we wanted to have a special fundraising event for basically for his memory, to supply a guitar education program for the local schools, which we successfully did through the live streaming thing. But
yeah, and you carried that through, man, because it was disrupted. You tried to reschedule, waiting on what the state was going to do. It was clear the state wasn't. The country really wasn't adopting a known plan of how to move ahead. So you went ahead and just orchestrated the whole live thing.
And it worked out great. It was a great event, but we learned a lot of this stuff. And now the equipment that we're using here, okay, and connecting with you guys every week happened because of that event that happened back then. But I also think, I did a little digging, okay?
Okay.
So I would say that everybody who's ever taken American history class, outside of the Civil War, okay, the most damaging thing that has ever happened in American history from a entire country thing was the Great Depression. But some of y'all may not ever put this together, but before the Great Depression, what was music like? Was there rock and roll? Was there country? Was there blues? No. So all of the most popular music that you did have a form of jazz, okay? But it wasn't the jazz that hurts you in the feels. It was the, I guess, kind of more the.
It wasn't Blue Note jazz.
No, it was Dixieland. It was definitely more of that jitterbug stuff. It was not the same. So the Great Depression, which is without a doubt, I mean, it's not even up for debate, the worst economic pressure the United States had ever experienced. From that, with also happened the Dust Bowl. So we had a stress on the agricultural sector, which is really what this country is built on, okay? From the ashes that were the 1930s, blossomed everything that we know today is popular music, not just in this country, but worldwide, okay? Because from the 1930s was born country music, was born folk music, was born blues music, and then from those combined to form R&B, or which would later be called rock and roll music. So we would not have Led Zeppelin, the Beatles, Elvis, anything if it weren't for, really, I'm kind of going butterfly effect here, but if it wasn't for the pain that was suffered during the Great Depression, okay? Additionally, something that I've learned years ago is that, you guys may not know this, but in every economic and social down period, there is an up period of creative notions, okay? So you think the 1970s, okay? You were coming out of the 60s, there was that kind of weird time in the early 70s where music was, where was it, you know?
Commercial.
It was kind of bland. You didn't really have a lot going. Then you had a extremely down time in the mid-1970s. That's when popular culture started moving to get back to nature. Let's do Little House on the Prairie and Grizzly Adams and all these kind of shows. The Waltons, right?
Well, you get some wacky folks floating around without shaving razors there for a while, and wildly colored clothes. We're gonna nip that in the bud.
Well, and look at what we got from that.
Reagan.
Well, no, what I'm saying is from a musical standpoint, that's when Waylon and Willie started growing their hair out and outlaw country was born. That's when really The kind of polished, schmaltzy pop of that time was kind of rough hewn into what we would, call punk, and then later into metal, okay? I mean, it was almost protest music from a time where they grew from...
Which band are you talking about?
Well, I would say that, you'd have bands like the Ramones. Okay. You'd have bands like Aerosmith.
Okay.
And, even bands like Led Zeppelin, but again, Zeppelin was a different, country, but still, they kind of aided from that kind of reckless dirtiness of the 1970s, the kind of carefree nature of that. Now, the 1980s, what happened? Well, everybody was making money, having fun. You had all this pop kind of saccharine almost nature of the 80s.
Some kind of white powder infused.
Yeah, but by the late 1980s, you had some pain. You had a stock market crash happen in '88. You had an election that kind of changed the nature of things. And it really opened the door for a change in style. That was kind of when I grew up. And that was a style that I guess we now commonly call grunge. And not just grunge, but you also had a big growth in acoustic music. So
you had gangster rap at the same time.
Sure, but I mean, see, in the same, so rap, I mean, even take rap, which again, at that time I listened to rap, and rap is a perfectly valid expression of whatever. I felt it was a little more pure back in those days than it is now, but back in those days, they were all dealing with social topics that weren't being addressed in popular music. So as things went down, music came up. And so in every down time, you have issues like that. Now, first of all, we got some great comments coming in. Just wanted to thank you guys for watching. First of all, we've got to see from our friend Lee Walker, good to see and hear local business with some common sense about all this madness. Love this making good out of the bad. If you can't make good out of the bad, what are we going to learn from the bad, right? I mean, let's make lemonade out of the lemons, right?
Yeah, and if your eggs are all in one basket, you better pretty well figure out how to scramble them babies up.
But then Lee also mentioned all great art comes from struggles and strife. I don't know that I'm going to completely generalize and say all great art comes from struggle and strife, but a lot of really good art, stuff that hits you in the feels, does come from the shared human experience, as Charles Bukowski called it, the constant condition.
I think you could get on with saying most pretty easily. I mean,
yeah,
I think what most people are identifying with is being genuine. Like if you are a genuine artist, you're expressing everything that reflects who you are and your personality, then it comes across to the people. We know that it's genuine, and then you can respect it as its own individual thing. Whereas if you're just doing something that someone else is doing, especially if you're dressing it up or putting a little faster tempo to it, it might still be good, it might still be popular and sell a bunch, but it doesn't mean that it's genuine.
Yeah.
So and it's hard to not be genuine if your background is pain and suffering. That has a tendency to come out,
Well, and we were talking about that also just the other day. Would you say that Bob Dylan has a good voice? No. There you go. His voice sucks, okay? I'll tell you another guy whose voice is terrible. Tom Waits. And you know what? Tom Petty. Love you, buddy. Not a good singer. But let me tell you about all three of these guys. John Hyatt, I'd also argue, not a good singer. But these are the guys who, when I listen to their songs, I feel their emotion and their pain and their struggle, okay? In a lot of this stuff. Because it's honesty, okay? And that's what is
Randy
needed
Newman.
in this stuff. Well, Randy Newman is, hey, first of all, hey, there will be no hating here. Randy Newman songs are freaking awesome. You can't say that you don't love all the Toy Story stuff.
Yeah, the only one that I even pretend to know is not a real one. It's the Family Guy where he's making fun of it.
Oh, like, well, I mean, he loves L.A. He loves short people, and Randy Newman is. But I mean, the point is that there are. I'm sure somewhere there was some classic Pavarotti style guy watching Bob Dylan and whatever sell millions of albums and connect with millions of people. And they're like, what the heck is this? This guy stinks. I practiced for years and he's singing like crap. But the point is, as classically and technically amazing as these people are, they aren't connecting with the people that are.
Well, you're racing towards your point. You had gotten up to the 90s, and eventually you'll get to, home digital distribution. And once you get there, you've gotten to a nuanced position about COVID is that like every person can be a musician essentially now. Prop your phone up, hit record, go live,
Absolutely.
And get it out there.
Absolutely.
Which I think is awesome, because if I go to another stinking restaurant in town where some person is knocking down some acoustic tunes that are awful and they're unrehearsed and all that mess, those places should be reserved for those people who have practiced their craft and can deliver the music. You've got the whole internet available to you. Go home and let grandma hit as many likes on your video as you want to. You don't have to screw up brunch. So,
by the way, I want to thank Jamie.
That might be an outside point for some of you guys.
At El Toro restaurant with me a few weeks ago, completely, nearly unrehearsed, to a packed audience. Not a table was open. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was a lot of people there.
And you know what? I had, for that whole week after that, so many people say, thank you so much. It's exactly what we needed. Now, it's important about that is that one person's trash is another man's treasure, and there's a lid for every pot, right? And you never know what someone needs to really make their day.
Yeah, I'm not saying that's the case, but you were talking about Pavarotti and then Dylan. I'm just saying, I've told my kids the same thing. If you want to make art, go make art. If you put it on the internet, 1 million people see it. If 1% of the people that watch it think that you are worth giving $1 to, you made $1,000, which is more than we made printing 1,000 discs
That's awesome.
in the 90s. That means 999,000 people think you're terrible, but it doesn't matter because you were able to hit your demographic, you're able to hit your audience.
Now, speaking of art, we have Lee also had to type in and say, Van Gogh was very troubled and had struggles and made perfection in his work. What is perfection? Okay, now we're getting into subjective nature. One thing I will absolutely agree with you, I don't think I would like to have been Van Gogh's friend. Okay?
Well, who was the other guy in town?
I don't know.
That's not...
we're talking about a guy who was absolutely lit on, what was it, absinthe? Okay, do you know what absinthe is, by the way? It is terrible, okay? Or as they say in Spanish, el terrible, okay? It is a liqueur that's green. It is freaking terrible.
You gotta have it out of the little torch sheet, little glass sheet, this distribution thing.
It's a whole system, okay? Yeah. My system is glass mouth, okay? I don't need any. Now that being said, he was completely lit. He was completely messed up. He cut a portion of his ear off. We all know that. So do you want to be friends with that guy? How was your day, Vincent? Thanks.
It might not have been like that.
It was.
I think that guy was probably cool. There wasn't no Randy Van Gogh doing some prints over here. It's like, nah, Randy, we're going to stick with Vincent over here because he's the only guy in town.
Now, that being said, one thing I will say is that we derive comfort from the suffering of others, okay? I guess you could say misery loves company, okay?
Okay.
So Van Gogh, a lot of these people, they were tortured. They expressed themselves through their art. And honestly, think about blues musicians. You guys think it's rough with the pay gap? What, dude, sharecroppers in Mississippi, okay? Dude, these guys are coming home just wore out. All they can do is stomp on the floorboards and blow in a jug, and they changed the world, okay? I mean, these guys had nothing, no musical training. All they had was an extremely sore back and the desire to want to get their emotions out in one way or another. And if it wasn't for Alan Lomax and his wire spool recordings, you know, we may not be privy to how awesome and how much our lives are enriched through the struggle of these other people. But
I think I'm losing the point of where I'm ultimately trying to get to on the conversation. But how would have COVID affected, you know, a whiskey jug musician?
How would have, well, how are you going to sing the blues with a mask on?
Yeah.
You know what? That's a song right there. I can't sing the blues with this mask on. Okay? But I mean, the point is that
you sure can't sing no outlaw country.
Well, I mean, so that being said, though, we are interested in knowing, well, what have you guys done? I know one thing: gigs have exploded. There are so many places that are starving for music, not just people to play, but people to consume, that if you're a musician right now and don't have a gig, it means you're not trying, because they're everywhere, and people have such a desire right now to hear what the craft that we work on. So there's that. Obviously, there's 60% of more people who bought a guitar this last year.
Bunch more guitars out there.
To the point where one of our biggest problems is we don't have the inventory that we normally have, where you can come in and see 50 Les Pauls or 60 Martins hanging on my wall. We still have more than everyone else, but it's still not as many as we're used to having. But I'm like excited for what creative, cool stuff is coming from this pain that we've collectively experienced.
And when you're ready to put that creative, cool stuff out there, just remember, all the business owners have been cash flush for a number of months, waiting on this thing. The doors will bust wide open. Don't go play a gig for exposure. Make sure you take that shiny new guitar that
absolutely.
you bought one of Brad's for.
Well, and that's another thing too. You know, what he's talking about is obviously being compensated for your art. There's nothing shameful about being compensated in one way or another. If you can't be compensated to share and to make something awesome, how can you expect to continue to do your craft? I mean, there's nothing shameful for asking for payment for what you're doing, okay? So don't ever let someone guilt you into that.
And I'm not saying that exposure can't be a currency, but that same
let it be your choice, though.
Yeah, that same restaurant or car dealership or whatever you can give them some exposure with a brand new ride or a week's worth of free meals.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, you can.
How often they do that?
Yeah. So make sure that exposure currency is going both ways.
First of all, say hello to Greg Sluter, my buddy Jerry Okerson, who's an awesome musician, by the way, and one heck of a nice guy. Lee Walker also put in that says a raging addict, okay, talking about obviously drugs and stuff, that couldn't even take care of himself, about Van Gogh. But the art always came out, and art always prevailed. And that's one thing. We remember cultures by their art. I mean, most people couldn't tell you who the Senate Majority Whip was during the LBJ administration, but they could tell you that Buffalo Springfield was awesome during that same period of time. So no matter, again, I'm not saying that there's one thing more important than the other, but what lasts is the art. So don't ever be afraid and don't be ashamed in the craft that you're doing, because it's far more memorable and sticks with things. Also, he mentioned a great number of heavy metal singers suffered really awful childhoods of abuse and neglect. That's unfortunate.
Is that true?
I'm sure there is. There's a lot of pain in the world. I'm not going to deny that. They express and heal through raging music, it seems. Well, I mean, whatever gets you through it, and I know that lifting weights is a lot more satisfying when I'm listening to Pantera, Cowboys from Hell, than when I'm listening to Air Supply's greatest hits.
Weren't like all those Cannibal Corpse guys like physics professors at a college somewhere?
It's interesting that there's actually a lot of educated people that, but then again, music is math. Okay, so
if you had to wear a polyester jacket all the time, you'd probably want to go scream at a bunch of strangers wearing all black every now and then.
Also, I got a comment that says he was in Nashville this weekend. It was packed and music flowing everywhere.
Cool.
We're getting back to some normalcy. I'm happy about
Van
that.
Gogh was playing Nashville.
Make sure that you guys are being safe, though. I don't want to get into a what do you want to say? Personal liberty conversation about vaccines. If you choose not to do it, fine, be safe. But I'm so happy to see things, moving forward. And music is the universal language. I completely agree. But in the end, what we're trying to, do here is engage with you guys. Obviously, we've seen a huge influx of creativity, of music, of art, in all sorts of ways. Keep it going. Just because we're seeing a little bit of normalcy returning, we're not having these sobering obituaries of all these poor people who spent their last days in a terrible way, doesn't mean that, forget this creative thing that we've been working on the last year. Let's get back to playing Minecraft for 6 hours in a row. No. I love where things are going when it comes to the creative aspect. I would love to see you guys do more of it. I would also encourage you, if any of you guys want to appear on our live stream and share your art, okay? If you're like, hey, I was locked in, I started playing guitar, and or uke or violin or whatever, okay? You are who we are connecting with. If you want to come on the show and share that with people, dude, you come on, more the merrier. We're all about it.
You should do it like that radio program though, where they had who'd they have? The Masked Band Guar. They had them come on and do like a pop tune. But then Punch Brothers went and did that Cars bit. Anybody that wants to come on, let Gibson scope them out.
Absolutely.
Like if they're a folk singer or something, give them like a straight up like dance track or some like old school hip hop thing.
And what he's talking about,
make you do some genre bending cover tune. I'm not going to do it, but you should do it.
If you guys are on Facebook, you need to contact our executive producer. Just do a search for Gibson Putt.
That's right.
And send what you want to him, and he will get you up here on the show. And we will focus on you and your art.
If you slip him a 20, you might get a little better spot.
And if you bring him, let me see, Gibson's favorite food is Santitas with no cheese, no salsa, raw, like a savage. He also eats chicken strips. But the point is you're
going to get us kicked out of so many countries this week.
Exactly. We're shooting for Uganda this week.
What's
Coney 2021.
Are they big into chicken strips and Santitas?
I don't know, but I know that they capture children and give them guns, and that's not good, unless you're hunting for food for your family.
Yeah, I haven't been there in a while. I don't know what's going on.
It's been a while since I've been to Uganda. So, but no, that being said, seriously, it's summertime. Let's get some music on the show. So we're here every Tuesday. Haven't missed a single one. And so if you guys want to focus on your group or your craft or whatever, let's show our audience what you guys have been doing the last year. So, give us a holler and so on. And let's
let them send us a clip. We'll put them on the theater. We can sit here a la Mystery Science Theater 3000, and we can critique. You can get a free critique.
Free critique. So, but seriously, no, we're all about your craft. We want you to be great. You are great. What am I saying? And
they're probably not all great. Y'all probably aren't all great.
Except for that guy, right? Oh, but no, seriously. So, that being said, we just wanted to say that from the ashes rise the great phoenix, right? And so just like the Great Depression or the financial crash of the late 80s or really the economic downturn in the late 50s, early 60s, from all of these things rose an awesome musical push forward, a creative push forward. And so just like with this, I know that when we look back at this time, we're going to see so many awesome things that happened from it. And it's because you guys chose to be creative, chose to be artistic.
I would have never seen a diminutive little fella twerking on the devil had it not been for COVID. So
yeah, except for that guy.
Thank you, COVID.
Yeah, no thanks.
Get that creativity rolling.
Yeah, let's everybody except for that guy. But yeah, that's awesome. But anyways, hey, I want to thank you guys again for tuning in, watching us, and so on. We're on obviously YouTube and Facebook. If you do one, invite your friends. If you do the other, invite your friends and like and share and all that kind of stuff. The more, the merrier. But seriously, just contact us, and we'd love to have you on the show. But again, we'll see you guys next week. Same bat time, same bat channel.
All right.